Okay.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Jackson. Thank you for watching the Station Square podcast. And in case you couldn't already tell, I literally just woke up 30 minutes ago. So today we're going to be chatting with somebody who's been a longtime industry veteran. They've been heard on numerous projects. You might have heard them in Naruto, Spider-Man, Fire Emblem, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Ruby. The list just goes on. If I pull up their IMDb, I think we'd be here for like, I don't know, another 10 minutes or so. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss Tarek Platt. Thank you for joining me for today's show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, would you like to share what is it that you mostly, I mean, you are a voice actress, but you could just share some other stuff that you do so people can get to know you. Yeah, let's get to break the ice a little bit and just share what is something else, what are some other stuff that you do, like that you juggle outside of VA work, and yeah, just
Yeah.
get that out of the way.
Sure. So, in addition to being an actor that's primarily known for voiceover work, I also do on camera television, film, and theater, although I haven't done theater recently because I have a kid. So that is taking up some of my time. But with my husband, we also together own a production company and a publishing company. And we have several books that are out and several movies that are out. And I actually have a YA novel coming out later this fall.
Nice. So yeah, I guess we could just get this first question out of the way. So tell us, like, share with us, like, what is it that you've mainly been up to these days? Because I know that voiceover work has been taking up a lot of your time, but anything else that you also like to share, like any hobbies? What is it that you guys do, like outside of VO, and just fun facts or anything that are interest or even some boring facts. But yeah.
uh, well, like I said, I am rather busy with being a mom because being a mother takes up a lot of time. I love my kiddo, but it does definitely is a different balance of work and creative endeavors than it used to be before I was a parent. I love reading. I'm actually reading a really cool book right now called The Soul of an Octopus, which is really fun and interesting. I love to travel, which has definitely been curbed a little bit just because of the pandemic and the state of the world. And so, hopefully, as we move from a pandemic into an endemic and things sort of open up and become safer for everyone, we'll be able to get back to traveling because traveling is a very important piece of life for me and for Yuri, my husband. But I mean, I love to consume interesting, creative things. So, like, I like directors of film and television and theater that are making interesting choices and curious and creative, but also very aesthetic. And then in terms of the types of books I like to read, it's not exactly just a fantasy bent, but I definitely like world building. I like people that create really interesting and fascinating places to live in your imagination, because I think the imagination is one of the most powerful tools we all have. So yeah, so I guess travel and reading and watching interesting things that excite me on a very visual scale.
Oh yeah, right on, right on. I'm very much am in the same way. Storytelling is one of the most key. It's always been a very large aspect. It's something that I'm very, very passionate about. That's also how I got into when it comes to performing, when it comes to art, animation, and writing. That's all of the above of what I really appreciate and what I really love to do,
Yeah.
and that I have a huge interest in. And that kind of led pretty much a lot of people to where they are today, like voiceover artists. I mean, they come from different backgrounds, and it's pretty. Everyone's journey is different, but the the thing that we all share in common is that we just love telling stories,
Mhm.
to say the
I
least.
agree. I agree. It's
Yeah.
it's it's about good storytelling at the root of it all.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, Don, I like to do my research. So you moved a lot when you were a kid. So you grew up in Chelsea, Michigan when you were 14, and then yeah, you could just share a little bit about your little background when it comes to the theater and the acting and all of that stuff. So you can just tell me what got you interested in pursuing the performing arts.
Sure. As a kid, I was always interested in science and medicine. And then when I saw my dad sort of have his midlife crisis and go back to med school and become a doctor, I spent a lot more time with my mom. And my mom was a big fan of literature and theater. And so she would take me to go see plays when my dad was working. And I remember seeing a play when I was a kid and just being like, oh, I didn't realize kids could be in plays too. Like in my head, I sort of all plays I had seen up until that point had been adults. And I remember sort of watching it going like a light bulb sort of going on, like, wait, this is something I could do. I could do this. And very quickly I got involved in, I auditioned for a play. I got a role. I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. And I did like a 180. I was like, yeah. Science is really cool and all, but I want to be an actor. So I kind of did that switch when I was a kid. And you're right, we did move around a lot. I Virginia, Arizona, Oklahoma, a different part of Virginia, and like you said, Michigan as I got to like high school. And so the sort of through line for me was that I could always find some place to do theater and some place to act. And that sort of became my sort of my focus. And then I realized that because it was something I was so excited with and that I was very passionate about and enjoyed, that I wanted to pursue a career in it. And so I ended up going to Rutgers Mason Gross School of the Arts, um, and studying in London at the London Academy of Theatre to get a degree in this thing that I loved so much. So theater arts and acting. But it was only after college that I made sort of, I don't want to say a pivot because it's still in the entertainment industry. It's still part of the business. But like, I didn't even know voiceover was a thing when I was in college. It wasn't something that was focused on or taught. And then growing up without a television as a kid, I never watched cartoons. I wasn't somebody who like woke up in the morning and saw Saturday morning cartoons. I didn't play video games. That wasn't part of my experience and a type of content that I consumed. And so I wasn't even really aware that it was a possibility as a job. So it was only after college that I even started working in voiceover. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, you're a voice actor. And I'm like, well, I'm an actor. You know me more for the things I do in voiceover, but I still do work on the stage. I still do television and film. So like it's all the different colors of the rainbow that are involved in acting. Sort of.
Yeah. So yeah, so you moved around a lot and you went to the Mason Gross School of the Arts in New Jersey, where you got a Bachelor of Fine Arts. So, and then you studied at the London Academy of Theater. And so you were pretty much going to all of these big areas of acting, like New York, Broadway, and then you moved to LA. So how was it like, getting to travel around and then making your big move to Los Angeles?
Um, I mean, I think anytime you make a move, whether it's down the street or across the country or to another country, I guess it's always filled with excitement, but also there's a stress to it because you're changing everything, you're upending everything, you're changing your life. And it is scary and you don't know what's coming and you don't know what's around the corner, but there's this really exciting motivator that is sort of pushing you along because you don't know what's coming. And yes, there's going to be hard things that happen, but it's also exciting to think of what the possibilities can be. And so I actually made the move from New York to Los Angeles because at the time an agent had seen me in a play in New York and off Broadway and had said, I really think you should come out to Los Angeles and try your hand at auditioning out here in television and film. And I was like, I guess I should go do that. And so Yuri came out with me and we drove across country and we came out to Los Angeles. And at the time, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a permanent move. I was like, oh, I could go try this for a year and see what happens. But then it became pretty quick. We realized pretty quickly that it was going to be where we were going to stay and work.
So that was also how you met Yuri?
Well, Yuri and I had met in New York, and we had already started dating before we did the drive out across the country. And actually, we got married on the drive out. We eloped and hit Vegas and got married.
Las Vegas on New Year's Eve, if I recall.
Yeah.
Nice. But I actually didn't know this, but you performed in shows written and directed by John Delancey, which is actually very awesome.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
admire his work so much. So how was it like getting to work with John and being a part of his plays?
He's amazing. He's so creative and so talented, and he loves Shakespeare so much. What I was working with him on
No.
initially was Shakespeare. And then I ended up doing one of his original pieces, and I've worked with him several times. But I met him because he was doing a Shakespeare compilation for the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion downtown Los Angeles. And I was very thrilled that I got selected, that I got to audition for him, and then he picked me to be in it. And actually, the other actor that was in it went on to be what was the character? He's a Marvel character now. I'm so bad at this. Yuri is so much better at the characters than I am. What did Mike go on to do? He went on to be like a really big character in the Marvel universe. So but it was fun because we were working together and we were doing these sort of portions of Shakespeare, and we sort of did these vignettes to make a whole piece. And the orchestra was playing in between, and it was this really cool interactive theater for people. And then we went on to do other things. I ended up doing Romeo and Juliet with John as the director at the Pasadena Civic Center. And then, like I said, I went on to do one of his pieces that was also in conjunction with, because he loves music. He's almost, I mean, he's as well versed in music and music history and instruments and things of that nature as he is in theater. And so he likes to merge those two. And it's just a delight to get to work with such a talented artist. And I really respect him and I like him very much.
So for Monkey Kingdom Productions, how is it like working on projects such as Tumbling After, Shelf Life, and also Con Artist, which was that was a project that was been in the making for a very long time because you went to various conventions, got a lot of people on, a lot of veteran VA, what other actors and actresses in your little series, and yeah, tell us how all of these projects kind of came to be.
Yeah.
With all of these productions.
Like I said, we have our production company, and I think both Yuri and I believe that when someone else isn't hiring you, there's no reason that you can't create and generate your own stuff to work on. And I think going back to what we said early on, like, we're storytellers. Like the root of so many people in this business is to be a storyteller. And so if you don't have somebody else's story that you're telling, you can tell your own story. And we both have a lot of creative ideas. And so Tumbling After was our first feature, and we learned a lot on that. And then we did Shelf Life, which we ended up doing 4 seasons of, which was super fun. And it was about 4 action figures on a young kid's shelf. And it's very irreverent and silly and a little raunchy and fun. And we pulled in a lot of our friends who are other voice actors on that. And then Tumbling After was a feature that it's a mockumentary. So it's shot as if it were a documentary, but it's all scripted and comedic and silly. But we actually shot it over the course of a year while we went to actual conventions. I think there were 10 or 11 conventions that we shot during the course of over that year. And then we got fans at the conventions to participate, and our fellow voice actors who were friends of ours at the conventions participated. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for both Yuri and I, we're very excited about storytelling and pushing ourselves. And if somebody else isn't hiring us at that moment, there's no reason we can't still create and be creative. and work that muscle, which I think it's a muscle. You want to continue to push yourself because that's where you learn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, and you're also well known for co-authoring a book called The Voiceover Voice Actor, and you also later made an extended edition, which I have in my room, but I don't really know where I have it. Yeah, I wish I could show
All
you,
good.
but yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for putting in all that time and hard work into giving advice and tips to info to aspiring voice actors. And it's a book that I, promote on the podcast for anybody who wants to get into the industry. Definitely check out this book that, Yuri and Tara have authored and wrote. You should definitely get this book. There's a lot of
Thank you.
great other resources out there, like I Want to Be a Voice Actor
Mhm.
actor.com by D. Bradley Baker and Voice Acting Mastery. And yeah, there's just way too many resources for me to name. But yeah, this is one of the top ones
Well,
that I
thank you.
recommend to people. So yeah, you could tell us you could share a little bit about the book
uh,
and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am still very proud of voiceover voice actor. We wrote the first edition about 10 years ago, and it came out of so many people reaching out and just asking questions about how they could get into the industry, or what it was like to be a voice actor, or what scripts looked like, or what a day in the life of a voice actor was like. And we found ourselves answering a lot of the same questions over and over again with different people. And I realized, wow, there must be like a whole, people don't have this information. And I started to do a little research, and I found that a lot of the books that were out there at the time were either very dated, and the technology had changed a lot, and some of the things that were being explained, the rules didn't really make sense because the microphones were slightly different, and things of that nature. And also I felt like I based on the types of questions that I was getting. And it was not only from people who had no idea what was going on and wanted to break into the industry, but it was also from veteran actors who were asking, like, how do I do voiceover if I'm used to doing on camera? And so I think that both Yuri and I realized that there was sort of this need, this necessity for those questions to be answered. And, we went out to a bunch of teas with a bunch of people to try to answer their questions. Like, let's meet up and have a coffee and chat. But we were getting so busy, we didn't really have time to do that. And then we also realized that, like, if there was somebody in Ohio that we just don't particularly happen to personally know, they may still have the same questions. And so I started to compile all the emails that we had been, like, responding to people with answers. And so much of it was the exact same information that basically I just pulled it all together, and we came up with the book. And then we also reached out to friends and colleagues in the industry as voice directors and audio engineers and fellow actors and directors, and all the various levels of who's working doing what. And we also got some little additions into the book, so it's not just what we think, it's also what other people's experiences. And we were very proud of the book, and it did really well, and people really, really responded to it. But then, in the 10 years since it came out, there have been some changes. And also, we started to notice that we were working a lot more in motion capture and performance capture. And, there were things that people were asking us about, traveling rigs and, auditioning, from your closet in a hotel room, and some things of that nature. And so we decided, now would be as good a time as any to update the book. And so then we did the updated, like you said, the extended edition. And so that came out. Oh my goodness, did it now come out 2 years ago? Oh, time means nothing to me anymore. But so we put that out, and it has a lot more updated stuff. And now there's a workbook in it so that you can do, like, simple assignments to sort of help you on your way. We also offer the audiobook version because people really came down on us that we didn't do an audiobook version of the first one. They're like, "You're voice actors. Why did you not record an audiobook?" And we're like, "Well, it's a book. It's a book." But yeah, so now it's in all the various formats.
So let's talk about some of your roles because a lot of people know you in Naruto, Wave Master, like I mentioned earlier. So for Tamari in particular, because I think that seems to be like one of the roles that people often talk to you about, like one of your most recognized. And so I wanted to um, let's see, what is something that I'm not sure that a lot of people ask you? So what are some of the, I guess, when it comes to Tamari's character and personality, what are some ways that you relate to Tamari? Um,
Mm.
and I guess, what are some of your most relatable characters that you've done over the years?
Oh, I'm not particularly known for my relatable characters. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about the characters I play, but they're not always
Feelings.
relatable. But
Yeah.
I guess for Tamari, I think we we share this same sense of wanting to do right, wanting to be good and do the right thing, even if that's hard. But I think that's something that's similar to a lot of my characters. Like if you were to look at Edelgard from Fire Emblem, she also wants to do right. Like she believes in what she's doing is the right thing. But I think that that's true of a lot of characters, whether you're playing a good character or a villain. There's this sense that what you're doing is the right thing and it's why you have to do it. So it's easy to get behind that. I don't think I'm nearly as strong and powerful as Tamari is. She's a lot stronger and powerful, more powerful than I am. Although I do think that I can now start to recognize some of my own power. Like, I don't know if that's just getting older and more mature or being a mom or whatever that is, but you start to get to a place where you're like, wow, I really didn't feel like I was very strong, but I've actually done a lot of stuff that is pretty strong. And so I think that Tamari also shoulders a fairly large burden.
Mm. And for the Spider-Man video game, because that was getting a lot of rave and press.
Mhm.
I mean, your husband is Spider-Man, and you play a character named, of all names, Yuri. So,
I know.
yeah. So working on the Spider-Man franchise, did you feel like, because you've done a lot of various projects over the years, but do you feel like Spider-Man really also helped give you guys what's the right word? It helped gain you guys like, a lot more, I guess, respect and admiration, not admiration, but like, it really, like, because Spider-Man was like, it kind of really took off. Like, it just
Yeah.
really blew up, and a lot of people gave a lot of, great reviews on the game, and particularly praised Yuri's performance as Spider-Man. So did you feel like, it really boosted your guys, names out there in the
I mean,
industry?
it it may have boosted Yuri's, although I think that Yuri's had a pretty solid name and a pretty solid foothold in the industry for a number of years. I mean, back from when he was Prince of Persia to Superman to now, of course, Spider-Man and He-Man, and like I think Yuri pretty consistently has been working and has been recognized as a solid working voice actor. I mean, I think being Spider-Man is probably extremely a nice credit for him. And I know he loves getting to play Spider-Man. I know he really relates to the character and really loves the character. And I know that's been fun and good for him. As far as for me and my career, I mean, getting to work on Spider-Man was a lovely experience, and I loved getting to work with Yuri on it. I don't know that it changed anything. It wasn't like suddenly offers started pouring in that weren't pouring in before. Um, and it's funny too, because like the number of times that like Yuri and I will be talking to somebody and they're like, oh, you're in Spider-Man. And they're talking to Yuri. And then he says something about me being Yuri Watanabe. And they're like, you're in Spider-Man. And they just don't know that I'm also in the game. So I don't know if it's a disconnect because if they're talking to Yuri, then they're thinking about him as Spider-Man. And then they don't realize that I'm also in the game, or if it's just because the character of Yuri Watanabe, although I had a very large role in the game, is not the titular role. It's not Spider-Man. It's not even a character like MJ that is so familiar to people's minds. So I don't know. I mean, it was thrilling to get to work on. I love that I got to portray Yuri Watanabe. I love her as a character, but I don't know if it really shifted the trajectory of my career specifically.
Hmm, okay. Yeah, because I was wondering about that too, because like I said, Spider-Man, once the game came out, because that was around the same time that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the same time as like when Into the Spider-Verse came out, and that was also a really good Spider-Man um
Yeah.
related property. And also we
There's a
got the
lot of Spidey
Marvel,
love going around.
yeah, we also got the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man, the recent trilogy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I kind of wanted to ask you, I mean, if you've seen like at least the movies, at least,
Mhm.
not the new ones, but at least some of the older ones with Andrew, Toby, and the new one with Tom. What are your thoughts on the Spider-Man movies?
I mean, I think they're super fun. Although the recent one I thought was really great, and I loved getting the three of them together. I thought that was a really fun twist and very exciting. So I mean, I love the character. I think Spider-Man is a really likable superhero. So yeah, I enjoy the film franchises. I love what they're doing with the character. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we can also talk about yeah, so I just wanted to say congratulations on your son. And yeah, and coming up in June 9th, he's gonna be 6 years old. So happy early birthday to him.
True. Yes, yes.
So I guess so what are some of the challenges or difficulties of having to juggle and maintain being a mother and also doing the work that you're doing, juggling in
Um,
between personal with, your
Yeah, I mean, I
profession?
think it's mostly like timing, right? Because for example, if I have a motion capture shoot or if Yuri has a motion capture shoot, that's an all-day event. Like you have to be on set at 7 or 8 in the morning and you don't wrap until 5 or 6 in the evening. And then you have to then the travel to and from. And of course, school hours are much shorter than that. And so it's a lot of juggling of like who's going to take him to school, who's going to pick him up, who's can we get a babysitter and what like it's just a lot of those kind of um navigations of time and responsibility, who can be there, who can show up, but also who's working, trying to make sure that we can always take work, but also at the same time that we're always there to take care of our child and to be good parents. I think it's just sort of a juggling act. And I think it's a juggling act that everybody does. Whether or not you have a kid, you're always trying to juggle the various responsibilities and things you have, but having a child is a very sort of pressing responsibility. Like you can say, oh, well, I guess I can't take my car into the shop today because I've got this other thing, but you can't just not take your child, or you can't just not pick up your child, or you can't just not, like there's the constant. And I think people with pets are probably the closest to recognizing that. You don't just get to say, well, I'll feed my dog tomorrow. Like you have to feed the dog that day. It doesn't, there's no pushing it. There's no wiggle room for not being there. But as a parent, you have to always be available and always be ready and always be on. And that can be tricky. Not that you don't love the child, but it's also like just, you're across town and you get a phone call and you can't leave set and you're trying to work it out and like you're trying to see who can go get them. And it's those kind of like the scheduling and the wanting to be there because you love them, but also the trick of also trying and wanting to still be working and doing your career and doing your things. So it's just a balancing act.
So I guess what are some of your the hardest or some of your most challenging roles that you've done in your career?
Oh my goodness. And this is probably gonna have to be the last question because it's almost 9:30
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to wrap up. The most
Mhm.
challenging, that's hard because every character I have tried to find something that I can relate to or something that I can appreciate. But one of the more difficult sessions I had, and I love the character, it's Wonder Woman, but because they had so many people on the line that were having to sort of from a producing side of things say yes or no or give notes, it became a little tricky because you're trying to please everyone and that's always really difficult to do. But I mean, it ended up working out and we had a great session and they liked what I did, but like that was a little challenging as far as during the recording process just because there were so many sort of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. So are there anything else that you'd like to share, like any upcoming projects or work that we can look forward to, any conventions that we might see you in? And that is not under NDA, of course, because we don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no. There are some things that I'm working on, but I don't know which of them are still under NDA, so I'm not going to say anything specifically, but I am working. There are a couple conventions that both Yuri and I are signed up for. We're supposed to do Riverside,
I'm
anime
planning to go
Riverside.
to anime. I might go to that one next month, but we'll see. Everything's
Yeah,
kind of up in the air on my end.
sure, sure. And things are a
Yeah.
little up in the air for us too, because if things make a drastic turn with COVID, we may pull back from
Oh
some of the
yeah.
conventions. And then I think, is it Sacramento anime, Sacramento,
Sack anime?
Sac anime? So we're supposed to possibly be there. So like there's a couple conventions in the works. But of course everything's a little in flux. And then I have some jobs that I'm doing, but those are a little like who knows what's coming out when. But yeah, I mean, I'm still working, I'm still doing things. And like I said, my YA novel is coming out this fall, which I'm really excited about. And that's about it. You can always find me online. I'm always pretty available and accessible on social media. And then, of course, I talk about things when they can be announced and when they're out there. I do talk about them.
Okay, odds.
We're not at AVOX this year.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure. Where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter, I'm at Tara Platt, and on Instagram, I'm also at Tara Platt. And then on TikTok, I'm the Tara Platt.
Oh, good, because everybody has to have a TikTok these days.
I know, so silly.
Yeah, just silly stuff. Silly, silly, silly all around. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me this
Of
morning.
course.
And yeah, do you have any final words, last piece of advice that you want to give? Or just, yeah,
Uh,
of
Go out and be nice and have fun because that's what life's about.
course. Yeah. And I guess with that said, thank you for watching the podcast. I'm so sorry that we had to cut this short, but yeah, thank you for everyone who tuned in. Be sure to stick around by the time this goes up later today. And yeah, I guess with all of that said, you can find me on social media. I'm Robert Jackson everywhere. And have a good day, everyone. And stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated, get vaccinated as soon as you can. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. This is Robert Jackson signing out of here. And until then, have a good day, folks. Bye. Peace.